Greetings, Journey to Wholeness family. This is Kimberly J. I'm so happy to be back in community with you all after a brief break. I actually spent some time in Houston and New Orleans, taking my son on a couple of college visits. He will be graduating in 4 weeks. Yes, I have an 18-year-old. He's graduating in 4 weeks, and he got accepted to quite a few schools. I'm very, very proud of him. But now it's time for us to make a decision on where he's going to land. And so we visited University of Houston, which I liked a lot. And we also visited Xavier, which he got into, which I really, really, really like. So now he's narrowing it down between University of Louisville, where my oldest son Christian is at, Louisville, Xavier, and University of Houston. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, he will know exactly where his new home, his new city will be coming in August. So exciting times, just very, very busy. And so today I just want to build with you a bit about one of my experiences that I had in New Orleans, and how that, as a scholar, you all know that I'm currently in a PhD program. And so what I'm studying or focusing my dissertation on is the intergenerational trauma, how to heal intergenerational trauma. And I've narrowed it down to, or more specifically, how to heal intergenerational trauma of African American women through embodied spirituality. So I'm kind of in that vein. I'm in the process now of pulling together my dissertation proposal. But when you do like this amount of scholarship and study, you always begin to notice how it plays out in real life context. And so I'm just always, as I go through my lived experiences, I'm always a bit heightened to when it begins to show up and show out. And so thinking about intergenerational trauma, for those who are unfamiliar with it, intergenerational trauma is just really the transmission of trauma from generation to generation. And that happens through a myriad of ways. It can happen through DNA transmission. It can happen through environment. It can happen through psychological factors, socioeconomic factors. So it's a lot of things that play into how trauma gets transmitted to the next generation. But what I'm discovering and learning a lot about, and even like I said, I really witnessed this in New Orleans, is this concept of silence, which is the number one way that we tend to transmit trauma is through silence, by not talking about our traumatic experiences, by hiding our history or not even knowing our history, not speaking about it, not speaking truth to power, not getting the wisdom, not getting the knowledge and the information. Sometimes you say, well, things are just so bad, I just want to leave it in the past. But then your children begin to suffer, and your grandchildren begin to suffer from the very same things that you suffered from, because you didn't talk about it, or you didn't share, or you didn't give them the tools to deal with it, or you gave them tools to deal with something that they still really had no idea or no concepts about. So they don't even know how to apply the tools. You just say, don't do this because I told you not to do it, period. And you're still not providing the context, the historical context and the background and the backstory as to why and how we're in this place or in this position, or you're giving them this information or advice. And so the way that I witnessed that was my son and I, because I've been to New Orleans before, loved it, loved the culture, the music, the food, all of that, but it has changed a lot. And so that's for another story. But I want to focus on this experience that we had. We did a tour. So I wanted him to do a city tour. I've done the city tour before. But I wanted him to get more of a intimate look and feel at the city. kind of overall. And so we did this city tour. We were kind of like pumped because everybody on the tour bus was Black, except there was one white couple on the bus, but everybody else was Black, and the tour guide was Black. And so we were just like, yes, this is going to be a great tour. We're really going to really see the heart and soul of New Orleans. But yeah, no, that didn't happen. And so what did happen is that we got to see ourselves. And when I say ourselves, Black people, we got to be marginalized and erased from the historical concept and narratives of New Orleans. And so as the tour guide took us through some parts of the French quarters, he explained, how the French came over and they are the ones who founded New Orleans, and then the Spanish, and there would be no New Orleans if it wasn't for the French and the Spaniards, and all the great things that they did and all the statues that honored them. And there's this great statue with this Frenchman and then this Native American, and he says, well, the Native American assisted him in navigating the land, and and not once did he mention the Africans, the Black people. He didn't mention the Africans and the Black people who were enslaved, who actually built New Orleans with their bare hands. You know what I'm saying? He didn't mention them as being a very important part of the culture of New Orleans, of the sound, of the rhythm, of New Orleans. As he takes us on this tour, he mentions Louis Armstrong and Wynton Marsalis. And that was it. He didn't talk anything about the traditional African religion of voodoo that is prevalent and that New Orleans is known for. No mention of that, no mention of any other prominent Black figures or Black culture. He takes us to this cemetery. So one of the things that New Orleans is known for is the cemeteries, because the land is, because it floods and it's on top of water, all that, they have to bury all of their tombs and are on ground, so they can't dig into the ground. And so that's kind of like a thing that when you go to New Orleans, you want to check out and see. But at the Black cemeteries, they tend to create altars, and so their flowers, their beads, their stones, their just, decorations. It's beautiful. It's just really different. And so he decided that he would take us to a white cemetery that costs, he says, it costs $40,000 to be buried here. And of course, they didn't have any of the altars or any of those things on, with the caskets. And half of the tour bus, including myself, we didn't even get off the bus because we were like, okay, like, these are not our ancestors. Most Black and brown people would not even be able to afford to be in this cemetery. And you're here on the bus with all Black people. Like, what are you doing? Why can't we go to the Black areas and to the Black cemeteries? And then as we went to some of the Black areas that outline the downtown area and that outline the French quarters, he spoke about how, well, yeah, these used to be, all African-American, 100% African-American, but now they're more diverse, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing that these neighborhoods are now more diverse. And he alluded to the fact that in its gentrification, he never called it that. He called it diversification and said that it was a good thing. But these are houses that used to go for $10,000. Like, Black people could afford to live in these spaces, and they paid like $10,000 for those houses. But now they're like $150,000. And so white people are moving into the area. They're buying up the property. They're gentrifying the neighborhood. And now Black people have been pushed out. And so that's the story. That's the real narrative. And so let's talk about it. Why are we hiding it? What is the silence about? And what it does is it seeks to kind of soothe white consciousness But on the other hand, it minimizes and invisibilizes and it erases us and our contribution that we made to one of the most blackety black cities, in America, which is New Orleans. Like, how do black people get erased from New Orleans? And he managed to do that within the entire tour. And it was really sad because this is a black man. And so, I couldn't bite my tongue. So he comes on the bus after a few people went to see the cemetery. The other half of us sat on the bus saying, like, what's going on? Why can't we go to any cultural spots? Why aren't we learning, or he's showing us anything about the black culture in New Orleans? And then he gets back on the bus and I asked him, I said, can we go see some black cultural stuff? Like what is this? And his response to that was, well, y'all don't want to go to no hoods. I ain't taking y'all to no hoods. And so he immediately equated when you say black or cultural to a hood. And if that's how you feel, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation about how they became hoods. Let's have a conversation about the segregation and the discrimination. Let's have a conversation about that. Because when you don't have these conversations and you're on a tour like that, the white people walk off the tour bus feeling good, saying, oh, wow, look at what we did. Look at what the Europeans did for New Orleans. And this is so amazing. And I come from a great group of people and, it's a lot of culture and it's all about France and blah, blah, blah. Like you say, all the designs were French and all that great stuff. But then the black people get to walk away with this sense of internalized hatred, basically, internalized feeling of, damn, we don't do nothing but live in the hood. We didn't build nothing, we didn't do nothing, we just, And so when I brought it to his attention, he said, well, this is a tour for everybody. I have to give this tour for everybody. And so when people began to universalize the everybody, they say, well, I can't center blackness. I can't center you. Although you did a lot for this city, I can't center you at the expense of hurting the feelings of white people, or just feeling like, well, white people don't want to hear about this, or they don't want to have that experience. And so I can't center you all. This is not about y'all. And so it was a very interesting dynamic that played out. And the reason that I bring this up in terms of intergenerational trauma and silencing is because we have to give ourselves the space to speak our truths and tell our stories. And it benefits everybody. So not only does it seek to heal us personally, but it seeks to heal the collective. Because a lot of white people are out there and they don't know the truth because everybody coddles them and nobody wants to tell the truth and nobody wants to talk about slavery. We don't want to talk about the fact that in the French quarters, every house in the French quarters had slave quarters. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about what that did to black and brown people. Let's talk about how resilient we were. Let's talk about how we built the city. Let's talk about our culture, our music, all of the things that we did for New Orleans. Don't leave us out the story at the risk of, I just want to gloss over the history because all of these things happen. I just want to gloss over the history. I just want to sugarcoat it. And for the black people who didn't know anything about New Orleans, they didn't get, they walk away feeling like, oh, we didn't do anything. They didn't get any additional information about the city. And so it does everybody a disservice when you don't speak truth to power, when you don't speak your truth, when we don't tell our narratives. And the only way that we can heal is to have those difficult conversations, is to talk about it, is to tell the truth and stop sugarcoating. We have to be empowered enough to break our stories. To break the silence. And so I do realize that, dude was just probably doing his job and all of that. But, when he said that comment, like, nobody wants to see the hood. Nobody wants to see, so basically nobody wants to see anything that's really centering Blackness. Like that's trash. And that's how he kind of like, y'all don't want to see that. Y'all don't want to. I'm trying to show you. That's what he said. I'm trying to show y'all nice things. I'm trying to show y'all something nice. And, and so it was a very, very interesting experience, to say the least. But I'm happy I had the opportunity to witness how that plays out. And so it's a lot going on in the world now. So I invite you all to, anybody who wants to join me Sunday, I'm doing our first and third Sunday virtual healing circle, for us to get in a circle and talk about issues like this. Just talk about how do we heal as individuals? How do we heal as a collective? So just check out my website and sign up. The virtual healing circle is free. It's donation based. And hopefully I will see you all this Sunday. So thank you and have a great, great weekend. Blessings.